I always thought family was supposed to be your refuge, your safe place in a cruel world. But sometimes, the people who carry the same blood as you can cut deeper than any stranger ever could. It started with one dinner. One family dinner that changed everything. And on that night I learned two hard truths. 1. Kindness is often mistaken for weakness. And 2. Never humiliate someone who has nothing to lose. My name is Zainab. I'm 22 years old and I've spent most of my life playing the role of the quiet one. My mother died when I was 7, and since then, I've bounced around between relatives like a parcel no one wanted to sign for. I ended up living with my Aunt Doreen in Abuja. She was my father's sister, a woman who made sure I never forgot how much I owed her for taking me in. She had 2 daughters, pretty, spoiled, loud, and a husband who barely spoke. Her house was always filled with noise, perfumes, and opinions. I tried to stay out of the way, finish school, and keep my head down. But no matter how low you shrink yourself, someone will still find a way to step on you. I had just graduated from university. A degree in accounting, earned through scholarship, part-time tutoring, and countless sleepless nights. Aunt Doreen hadn't paid a kobo for my education. But in her eyes, I was still a parasite. So when she invited me to a family celebration dinner at one of the most expensive restaurants in town, I was surprised. "We're going to Lakeside Garden," she announced in her usual condescending tone. "Wear something decent. I don't want you embarrassing me." I wanted to decline. I had tutoring that evening and honestly, I knew I wouldn't enjoy a minute of it. But something told me to go. Maybe I hoped she would finally acknowledge my graduation. Maybe I just wanted to feel like part of the family. Stupid, right? The restaurant was glowing with golden lights, and a fountain in the middle sparkled like something out of a dream. I arrived early, wearing a long floral dress I'd borrowed from a friend. I sat quietly at the edge of the long table, watching as my cousins laughed loudly, ordering expensive cocktails, snapping selfies. Aunt Doreen arrived in her glittering gown and acrylic nails, giving me a once-over like I was a roach on her plate. The waiter brought out the menus. The prices made my heart stop. N$16,000 for a salad? N$24,000 for grilled fish? My cousin Ivy ordered 2 appetizers and a bottle of imported wine. Her sister got a steak. Aunt Doreen leaned back, smiling like a queen on a throne. Then she looked at me and said, "Are you not ordering? Or is it too expensive for you?" I forced a smile. "I'm fine. I ate earlier." Her smirk deepened. Of course you did. Always managing somehow, isn't it?" She glanced at the others. "Zainab is so good at surviving. She's like a rat, can chew through anything just to survive." Everyone laughed. My chest tightened. Then she leaned closer and said, just loud enough for everyone to hear, "After all, she's just a burden we've carried for years. But what are families for, right?" Silence fell over the table. Even the waiters paused. Something in me shattered. Not from the insult itself, I'd heard worse. But from the way no one said anything. No one stood up for me. Not her husband. Not her children. Not even the cousin who borrowed my laptop last week to write her internship report. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. I stared at myself in the mirror, blinking back tears. My fists clenched. I wasn't going to cry. Not here. Not now. And then I saw the answer, right there in my handbag. Earlier that day, my boss at the accounting firm where I'd just secured an internship had handed me my first official company debit card. I was to use it for client dinners, meetings, and emergencies. It was under my name. A gesture of trust. I stared at the card for a long time. Then I walked back to the table. Aunt Doreen was now mid-rant about her spa treatments and how expensive maintaining a woman of her standard was. I took my seat quietly. The food arrived. They devoured it with loud clinks and chewing. When the waiter brought the bill, it was neatly folded inside a black leather folder. Aunt Doreen reached for it casually, ready to impress with a gold-plated credit card. But I spoke first. "No, Auntie. Let me handle it." She paused. I insist," I said calmly. "You've carried me for years. Let me carry this dinner for once." She looked stunned, then amused. Big girl now, eh? Okay, oh. I took the folder and walked to the counter. The waiter raised his brow. Are you sure? Absolutely. I gave him the card. He swiped. Approved. Receipt printed. I walked back and handed her the slip. She unfolded it, expecting a signature or compliment. Then her eyes widened. N396, 200. She blinked. Zainab, you paid this? I smiled. Yes. You said I was a burden. I just wanted to show you I'm not. She tried to laugh. Where did you get this kind of money? I work. I earn. I'm not your responsibility anymore. And then I leaned forward and added, by the way, this was my graduation dinner. I just didn't want to celebrate it alone. Silence. No one laughed now. I stood up, adjusted my borrowed dress, and walked out of the restaurant with my head held high. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at a friend's place and never returned to Aunt Doreen's house. Instead, I found a small room closer to the office. I bought a second-hand mattress and a plastic chair and began again, on my own terms. Weeks passed. I didn't hear from her. But I didn't care. I was done trying to belong where I wasn't welcomed. Sometimes, dignity costs a lot more than money. But once you buy it, no one can take it from you again. And as for Aunt Doreen? Well, the bill was paid. But the real price? She's still paying it. Not in naira. In shame. And this? This was only the beginning. It had been 4 weeks since that unforgettable night at Lakeside Garden. I hadn't spoken to Aunt Doreen since. Not a call. Not a message. Nothing. But silence has a way of speaking louder than words. In that time, I fully embraced my new life. My internship at the accounting firm quickly turned into a full-time offer. I was still earning a modest salary, but it was enough to cover rent, food, and transport, with some extra left for savings. For once, I was living for me. No judgmental stares. No backhanded comments. No forced gratitude. Just me and peace. Then one afternoon at work, I received a text. Aunt Doreen, we need to talk. I stared at the screen for several minutes. Not hi. Not how are you. Not even congratulations. Just a demand. I ignored it. But 2 days later, she showed up at my office. She stood in the lobby, dressed in her usual flashy attire, but her eyes didn't carry the same arrogance. They darted around, unsure, scanning every face until they landed on mine. Zainab, she said, trying to soften her voice. I've been looking for you. I saw your message, I replied coolly. I came to apologize. That surprised me. I didn't mean what I said that night. I was frustrated. I tilted my head. Frustrated about what? My presence? Or your insecurities? She flinched. Zainab, please. You know how family is. We say things in the heat of the moment. No, I cut her off. You say things because you believe them. That wasn't heat. That was truth, wasn't it? You never wanted me. You just liked being praised for raising an orphan. Her facade cracked. But now the orphan doesn't need you anymore. That's the real issue, isn't it? Silence. I continued, you didn't come here for peace. You came because your pride is hurting. Because people are whispering about the dinner scene that went viral. Yes, someone had recorded the final moments of that dinner, the part where I paid the bill and walked out. It had quietly made its way to TikTok and trended locally with over 300,000 views. People cheered, commented. Some even shared their own family betrayal stories. To them, I was a symbol of silent resilience finally snapping. To Aunt Doreen, I was a stain on her reputation. You embarrassed me, she said through clenched teeth. In public. No, Auntie, I replied. You embarrassed yourself. I just paid the bill. She didn't respond. Instead, she pulled a chair and sat across from me. I didn't come here to fight. I came to ask for your help. Now that caught me off guard. Help? With what? She looked down at her bejeweled fingers. We're in debt. My husband lost his job months ago. We've been managing on credit cards. The house is being looked at for foreclosure. I blinked slowly. And you came to me? You're working now. You're good with numbers. Maybe you can help us restructure something, talk to the banks, Maybe even lend us a little? I almost laughed. After all the years of being made to feel like trash, I was now her solution? You called me a burden, I said softly. Now you want me to carry yours? She didn't say anything. I stood up. You taught me something important, Auntie. Family isn't about blood. It's about how people make you feel. And you made me feel small every day. She looked up, ashamed. I can help you with advice. I won't be cruel. But I will never be your scapegoat again. She nodded slowly, the weight of her pride heavy on her shoulders. Zainab, she whispered. I'm sorry. This time, it sounded real. And somehow, that was enough. I nodded. I accept your apology. But I've already moved on. I suggest you do the same. As she walked out of my office, I realized something. Forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It means freeing yourself from the chains of resentment and choosing peace. That night, I sat by my window, watching the city lights blink in the distance. I thought of my mother, and I smiled, because even though I'd been called a burden, I'd become a blessing to myself. It's been a full year since the dinner that changed everything. A single night that split my life in two, before and after. Since then, so much has happened. I got promoted at the firm. My team now trusts me with high-profile clients. I've moved into a modest but beautiful apartment with warm yellow curtains and a kitchen that actually feels like home. I started a weekend mentorship program for girls who, like me, had grown up being told they were too much or not enough. Every Saturday, we meet in a borrowed community center, and I teach them accounting basics, budgeting, confidence building, even how to navigate toxic family dynamics. You'd be surprised how many of them have Aunt Doreen stories. It turns out, I wasn't alone. One rainy Sunday morning, I heard a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, my cousin Ivy was standing there, soaked, shivering, and holding a tattered handbag. I didn't know where else to go, she said, her voice cracked. I stepped aside and let her in. She hadn't changed much, but the arrogance was gone. Her eyes were puffy, like she hadn't slept for days. Mom's not talking to me, she said after a long silence. She's blaming me for everything. Everything? I asked. She says I ruined her life. That if I hadn't filmed that dinner, things wouldn't have gone viral. But I didn't even post it. I just kept the clip for myself. Someone else must have recorded it too. That explained the mysterious video. I just wanted a memory of you standing up for yourself, she added. I was proud of you. We all were. But none of us had the guts to say anything. I didn't expect that. I got into trouble recently, she confessed. Lost my job. I've been couch surfing. I know I have no right to ask, but can I stay here? Just for a few nights. I looked at her. Really looked at her. This was the same cousin who once mocked my second-hand shoes in front of her friends. But now, here she was, humbled, broken, and asking for grace. I nodded slowly. You can stay. Just until you figure things out. Tears welled in her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me, I said. Just don't waste this second chance. Weeks passed. Ivy found a small job at a print shop nearby. She began attending my mentorship sessions, first as an observer, then eventually as a helper. The girls liked her energy, her boldness. It was strange watching someone who once ridiculed me now become a partner in building something meaningful. But life is like that sometimes. Messy, unpredictable, and strangely poetic. As for Aunt Doreen, I saw her once more, at a wedding. She looked thinner, quieter. Her glitter was gone, replaced with something more real. She approached me during the reception. I heard about what you're doing, she said. The mentorship, the job, even the apartment. I simply nodded. I know I can't undo the past, she continued. But I wanted you to know. I'm learning. I studied her carefully. And then I said, keep learning. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more, then closed it and walked away. That was enough for me. People often ask me what that dinner cost. They think I paid in cash. But the real cost was emotional, a final cut that forced me to bleed out every bit of doubt and grow new skin. What Aunt Doreen called a burden, life revealed as a blessing. Because I've learned something powerful. Sometimes, the best revenge is not anger. It's elevation. It's peace. It's choosing kindness without forgetting the pain. It's helping others find their voice because you once had to fight to hear your own. So yes, my aunt once called me a burden. But in that moment she gave me the greatest gift. She reminded me who I never want to become. And who I was always meant to be.